大家好，欢迎来到 Blue Rider Art 台北仁爱。这一次呢，我们带来 Prusa 他第5度的个展，量子纠缠 Spooky Action。我们现在就来和 Prusa 在线上来聊聊。Could you tell a little bit about how you start with such an ancient technique called silver point and why you started? It's so difficult and taking so much effort and time.
It really began in 2002. I was asked to teach in Florence, Italy through my university where I'm a professor. And I was teaching drawing in Florence. And it just made sense to teach silver point because you could walk to the local art supply store, Zecchi, by the Duomo, and buy silver point. So that's when I learned. I learned when I was teaching my students how to do it. When I came home from that, after seeing the beautiful drawings by Da Vinci and Raphael, 15th century drawings, I decided to pursue it myself. And then I read up on it, learned a lot about it, and actually now have gotten quite a reputation for silver point, so much so that I was asked to write a chapter in a book on silver point, and so now I'm known as a silver point artist.
For this time, you bring us something even more different. Spooky action. It's something about physics, and that's something we need to, study a lot before we have your show. So, would you like to talk about this?
Einstein, he was the one who coined the phrase "spooky action" at a distance. And what he was talking about is how one quantum particle communicates with another quantum particle, even when they're really far away, and they communicate faster than the speed of light, which is, in Newtonian physics, impossible. Spiritual scientists, when they come up with things that they can't answer, and he called it spooky action, because how can it communicate faster than the speed of light? And so I was thinking about that as well, because it really comes down to then quantum theory, quantum mechanics. And so you're moving from a Newtonian, a mechanistic universe to a quantum universe. And that's a strange world. So everything in the universe can be defined by the wave function. So my partner, who's a mathematician, I asked him to write down the wave function. And that's a set of equations that run through the 6 drawings. And so then I thought, well, I know things in a different way than a mathematician, and yet my knowledge is just as valid as an artist. So I'm coming up with my own theory of what it means to be alive. And I layered that with historic symbols of, to point out that people forever have been trying to come to terms with these questions. And they approach it in different ways, whether it's in poetry or music or in a painting. And so I embedded into these pieces symbols of that desire to have meaning and understand of what life is into the panels. So the equations, they kind of weave through, and then in the very end, they go down the black hole into what I call an alembic. So it's like a crucible, or it's a alchemical thing where the interaction occurs and is transformed. So I think in all of life, there's a symbol of the Ouroboros, the snake swallowing its tail, which means you come around full circle. And I think most wisdom traditions have that. But in this case, you come full light, you get sucked into a black hole, you come out the other side into a new possibility. My work is always very hopeful.
And would you like to talk about, because this time you present 6 paintings and there's a prints as well. So the materials and the way of technique, could you explain, is it different from before or is it completely new?
Right, working with the prints was completely new. I never worked in printmaking before. I chose etching because it's a very old tradition and requires a great deal of skill, and I thought the silver point skill would translate into an etching needle very well. So I start with a copper plate, coat with a hard ground, wear a magnifying lens visor, and then make my tiny, tiny little marks. I sharpen a needle, a stainless steel needle, to a really fine point, and make those marks into the plate. Each of the prints has 3 plates. Each of those plates means something. So the first plate lays a cosmological ground, which is like the background radiation, or chaos, or life without form. And then the perimeter is one's location on the earth, looking at what's not understood yet. And then each print is named after an astronomer who contributed something to our understanding of the universe. And in the center, then, is a mapping of sorts. Just, you know, how do you find one's location in something so huge and so complex? And so that mapping form occurs in the center. That's the third plate. And all of it is housed underneath Urania, who is the muse of astronomy, or the goddess of astronomy. And it's a collection of all the knowledge that we have of how this universe works and it exists. Etching form into what looks like my work.
Yes.
So then I think it was a release after that. It was a very meticulous process, very focused and small, to work very fluidly. So kind of like a release, like from really anchoring my mind in that location. So then on the Yupo paper pieces, it was, I have these equations that define the wave function. Then I actually wrote words about what I was thinking, but I obliterated the words so they become something else. So I sprayed the ink, words that I wrote, and the ink would flow. And then I embedded other forms. And I worked really intuitively instead of so analytically.
What's the most difficult part to an artist? You want to preserve the tradition, but at the same time, you need to have your own.
Right. I think it's very hard to come up with your own visual language because it takes years of unmediating yourself from expectations of what you think your work should look like. Working in the tradition of silver point was a practice craft or skill that then I had to try to add other elements to kind of wake it up or enliven it. Also once I got good at it, when I get good at anything, I try to do something else. I don't like to be really good at something because then it's like I would be making craft. And I think craft is essential for making great art. I think you have to be really skilled in practice. But if you know what you're making, then I'm not interested anymore. So I always have to be on this like edge of, will it work or it won't work? Or I have to learn something new from making it. Life is short. I don't want to be bored, and I want everything I make to count in how I understand my world.
And what exactly what you try to deliver through your works eventually?
I hope that each work contains my understanding of what it feels like to be alive, at least in that moment. So the fullness of my understanding of why things are the way they are. And so that there should be like a sensibility to that form that would offer a feeling maybe of beauty or calmness or like a sense of that life is fragile and beautiful and yet resilient.
Thank you. That was very inspiring. And I hope we have a successful show this time as well. And hope see you soon. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. I appreciate this talk.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.